Kia ora, everybody. I'm sitting here with Brady. Now, this is so cool, and I love how this is the positive thing of how social media works. My friend Kai, who got introduced on social media, and then now I've had the pleasure to meet in person and had on the podcast a couple of times, was at a pretty cool event put on by Cervantes a week and a half ago. And
Winter Strong.
And then another social media influence of mine, Derek Woodsky, usually posts some great things with coffee and has gone a bit silent. And Brady, what sparked you to start the hashtag Woodskyisms?
So Woodskyism is just, obviously his last name is Derek Woodsky. And this guy is probably one of the most, I don't know, how would you say, profound minds of the athletic and just outdoor world. And he doesn't even try to be. He just is. His story is an amazing one. Way more interesting than mine, but I'll try to do my best for the show's sake. But yeah, he used to do this thing every morning where it was just a profound saying of something that he went through or something that was a joke to him, or like the other day he did the International Women's Day. And so we all just kind of started calling it Woodskyism. And I mean, if you can ever have a chance to sit down with Derek Woodsky and literally just have no time limit and talk, you will not be disappointed. So I hadn't seen that in a while. And so I was like, you know what? I came back from Winter Strong and grabbed my cup of coffee and just kind of stared out the window while I was just kind of reflecting on it all. And I was like, this would be a good time for some Woodskyism.
Yeah, I love how it's always like this black, he doesn't even call it coffee anymore. It's like, black gold or something like that.
Yeah, he likes to do the equivalent of something really, really, high speed or really, really great in this world. Whether it be, like the other day with International Women's Day, it was like the liquid equivalent of International Women's Day. It's so great, and just the way he puts things is awesome.
And you say about, he could just talk. Maybe that's why he had to cut the podcast short, but he did an awesome series of podcasts talking with his mates from the strength and conditioning realm. And yeah, like you say, they just went, and it was just gym after gym after gym, and honest as well, honest and raw opinions. And I'm sure you probably got a bit of that last week at Winter Strong. How'd you get there, and what was that like? So Derek said that he was going to be there with Laura, and I knew Kyle was with Laura. I was like, "Are you going to this?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be there." I was like, "Oh my god!"
I'm so glad that she came too. It was a very inclusive thing with it being the inaugural one. We really wanted to see how it would go. So the fact that she told me, she was like, I asked Bert, I wanted to be polite, and Bert said yes, absolutely, come along. So the way I got involved with Sorinex was just kind of. We'd have to start like 4 years ago when I met Bert through Rogue American, who's out of Austin, Texas, West Whitlock. So fast forward to 2016, Bert heard that I was guiding elk hunts up in Montana, in the western part of the state. And so Bert, for his 40th birthday, was like, hey man, I kind of want to go shooting elk again. I was like, hey, I'm your guy. And we spent almost 2 weeks up there on that mountain, and, old hunter's cabin and everything like that. And it just, or it was kind of a canvas tent, just tried to keep minimal footprint and everything like that. So it just, that was probably one of the most coolest guiding hunts that I've ever had to do, had the pleasure of doing. And so, with my military career and everything like that, and growing up the way I did, being Native American, having the beliefs and spiritual bond with the earth that I have, it's just kind of something that he asked me to do, as a friend. And I said, yeah. He goes, I was like, what would you like me to do? He said, well, I'm thinking of this idea. So it's kind of a Winter Strong, like, I don't know if I'm going to call it that yet. And yeah, he goes, I want something because Summer Strong, which happens May 18th, usually around every year, which we're coming on number 12 this year. Everybody just looks at it as a recharge,
Mm-hmm.
and you have all these Olympians, these professional athletes. I come from the professional bull riding side and all the way to Adam Nelson, a gold medal thrower and everything like that. But everybody checks their egos at the door. Everybody sees that as a sanctuary. And so everybody was like, man, a year is almost too long.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bert was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I was like, yeah, I stick with Winter Strong. Everybody was like, yeah, stick with Winter Strong. So I was like, he goes, well, would you teach, field skills, like some tracking, stalking, camouflage type stuff? And I said, absolutely. And that just kind of derives from the Native American side, growing up the way my father taught me out in the, we learned on the ranch in Mason, Texas, which is deep in the hill country. It's kind of like, I've never been to Australia, so I'm trying to, put it together with something like that. If you've ever been to South Africa, it almost has like a similar look to that. Not on the coast, but inside. So I grew up listening to Dad, listening to my uncle tell me, how to track, how to look for sign, how to find my way at night, how to find my way anywhere. And then in the military, I went through the schools I did. And so Bert was like, man, I need you here, man. Let's do it. And I said, roger that. So.
No, that's awesome. I need to come over to Texas and learn some skills. My biggest problem is not so much the plains and like the South Island of New Zealand's more open country and big mountains, but when it comes to the North Island of New Zealand, it's a lot of bush. And go, well, how am I going? I look at my GPS and see I've gone around in a circle, and so
he just looks like a big old bull.
Yeah, this looks familiar. I've been here before. Oh, so I have. Yeah. So there's a lot before today, but who is Brady today?
Today, at this very moment, just recently, and you catch me at a good time in my life, and I have no problem telling you whether I'm going through good or bad. I've been through enough that I'm at that point now where I just don't give a rat's ass about who is going to say something or who is going to be like, oh, what have you been through? I just don't care. I just want to get it out because I've seen over the past weekend or over the past couple of weekends at Summer Strong, people came up to me afterwards and were like, man, you're the way you taught, the way you talked about the land, the way you told your story in the white space time that we had with your hip pocket. People coming up to me I think I stayed up with Adam Yankee who's Journal Mountain Hunting out of Canada podcast. Amazing guy, by the way. Till 3 a.m. just talking about, we went pretty deep, and there were about 3 other guys there. And that was kind of like the capstone on top of getting my story out. I've spoken at, Liberty University in Virginia and everything like that, but I don't know what it was about that past weekend. So I felt that change, that energy. In Apache culture, we believe in, the spirit that lives within all things, and it gives you that energy if you just let it. If you just live in that moment. And I came back, and I wanted to get up in the morning. Even though my body still hurt or migraines, I was like, you know what? I had a new attitude on this, and because I have post-concussive migraines from getting blown up in overseas, and sometimes my joints, I've got arthritis from my accident, or even just all the crap we went through in the military, and my body will lock up in the mornings. But when you have it down in here and you feel that, and you literally are invincible, and nothing's going to stop you. And honestly, it's been a while since I felt that. I think the last time I felt that was when I got moved over or when I became a Marine, first of
Mm-hmm.
all, back in 2006. And then again, and that feeling didn't leave until reality set in when the Marine Corps was like, hey, look, we know you've done a good job. You got no black marks, no what we call NJPs, non-judicial punishments. Nothing against you. You got medals of valor, all these deployments, all these schools, but we just don't need you anymore. We got too many people, and I think that's when that feeling went away. That confidence that people call it, but I feel it's so much deeper than just confidence, and a lot of us owe a lot to Bert Soren of Sorenex. He is the hub of all of us spokes, so to speak. That's the best way I can describe that. I mean, that guy, I'm one of the youngest guys around that crew, being 30 years old, and they're all like big brothers to me and big sisters. So, I mean, it's amazing.
Fantastic, mate. One of the motivators to start this podcast was listening to Everyman podcast, and they've just sort of brought on Aaron Blaine. I think he was Green Beret. I might be wrong with that, but they've just done a civilian military integration camp, and again, it was the same thing of a group of diverse people that came together, and I think at the start they had a bit of a blue, but through opening up, deep talking, and finding this common ground, they just had this powerful feeling. And you spoke there about being caught in some explosions, and there's a few professional athletes in that crew, and one of the things they had in common was this feeling of, hey, dealing with concussion and stuff, it can get you down, it can change your mindset, it can creep up on you in the middle of the day, you just don't feel like yourself. I guess that's one of the things of hanging out with athletes is they've got this brotherhood or team spirit, and then they've also got these injuries and soreness and a lot of concussions. What is it? How does it sort of affect your life, and what do you do to manage it?
So injuries that I sustained overseas, a lot of the time we'd take an explosion in the truck and blow our back right tire 100 meters off to the right, and we're just kind of all in there, like on the cartoons with birds going around our heads, or some of us are actually, out for, 10, 15 seconds, to, a RPG coming in and hitting just on the other side of the wall. So it's not exactly the noise that's going on. Like with professional athletes, it's that shock wave that goes through, that triggers almost a chemical imbalance, or so the doctors tell me. And I deal with, that short-term memory loss, and then, just that overall recall, irritation. I've got the lights at a certain dimness because, you kind of get that feeling behind it. But there's a lot of different ways to deal with it. But I feel like the thing that's helped me the most is to, have that group, have those people that really care about you, and all the motivation in the world is not going to get you through the day when you have something that severe going on. You especially like myself, when I've been through 6 of them. It wasn't something that we really wanted to say we went through, because it would take us off the line, take us away from our team and stuff like that. So we would always just kind of grin and bear it. And then, it's really irritating when you go down to look and read a book or something like that, and everything's backwards. On top of the post-traumatic stress, which induces, and the TBI, they said the post-traumatic stress induced a kind of ADHD and a dyslexia. So that thing is like, oh, can I read? Oh, I can't wait. what was that? It's just always going and never feeling like you're doing enough coming from the op tempo that we did. So to transition into a civilian sector to the private sector or whatnot, you have to keep an open mind. You have to keep finding, that vantage point of that, and it's ever changing, that vantage point that's going to help you gain that perspective in order to make it through just even that day. But to even just get to that point, you're going to need some support. And whether you feel the support from, the government or, the government programs that are set up, or your family or your comrades or whatnot, have them there. Do not shy away. Do not keep your up. That's on top of depression and anxiety and everything like that. That's the worst thing you can do. So I was going through some TBI treatment recently here in Dallas through a nonprofit called the Boot Campaign, and they showed me the scar tissue. They showed me all this other stuff, and I had that little machine on my head and do the running kind of like an EKG, and then I'd sit and do like this dot tap testing where you see how fast you can do it, and they have our charts at a certain level because there was no way that they know what we would have scored prior to our concussion or to our injuries or whatnot or the blast. So they have to almost consider the op tempo that we run our minds at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty much like sitting in an AP Latin class, but on tactics, combat, and everything like that. And so they take that in consideration as well and realize that these tests compared to someone that, I mean, not to take away from anybody that had a different job that didn't really have to use that fight or flight mode 24/7 of the day, is going to be a little bit different. And so the testing on that was pretty extensive. I remember the first day I was like, hey, I got this. Halfway through that first day, I hadn't walked maybe 50 yards the whole time, but I sat in a chair and I had that, the brain cap on with about 240 wires coming out. I was spent after that first half day doing those mind games, I guess you can call them, the testing and everything like that. And man, when you take a break after your brain's been at such a high level of operation, and you don't, I mean, it literally, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I was tired. I was smoked, and I was like, man, I got 3 more weeks of this. All right, let's give it a go, So.
Yeah, mate. We're lucky enough to have Dr. Michael Lewis on, who's involved with the military and researching traumatic brain injury. And so, have you messed around with any CBD or fish oil in the treatment?
I was told to just kind of stay neutral throughout it all. Then I asked them, because of my back pain, I developed scoliosis from all the gear and all the, I took a step. We came into contact one time. I took a wrong step off a 6-foot drop, and I landed right on my butt, slipped a disc.
Yeah.
And on top of that, so I was like, hey, I got to take something for this pain. The CBD, it's non-narcotic, and they're like, okay, let's give it a go. Well, when I started doing that CBD, I started to notice at the same time the mental fatigue kind of subside a little bit, and it was like I would notice if it was just me getting used to it or if it was the CBD doing it. I've come to learn my body, not just being through the military and all this testing, but as an athlete, your body, and that I would highly recommend. Like, I just came from my buddy's father's house, who he's Army SF, and he's been taking CBD for 5 months now.
Yeah.
And I mean, he just had a stroke and he doesn't feel any pain, no back pain or anything like that. And he won't kid you. He's one of those guys that'll tell you straight up. And so I told him I was doing the same thing. I'd been on it for about a year now, and I absolutely love it. I know it's well, I'd say that kind of like melatonin. I remember I'd take melatonin back in the day, like while I was overseas, to help me sleep, and then my body would gain a tolerance to it. And that was the main thing I was so worried about with CBD. And I was like, man, and I was against it. It's not that I was against it. I was just skeptical for a lot of the time, thinking that what's the point if I'm going to develop a tolerance to it? Finally, I was just like, hey, let's do it. It helps. I mean, it doesn't completely take the migraines away, but I think because of my daily activities and everything like that, that probably doesn't help as well. So, it does help me calm down at night. It helps me gain what sleep I can, and that definitely helps with the pain. So
absolutely. And being a hunter, I'm sure there's plenty of meat in your fridge and freezer, but do you try sort of eat in a certain way, low inflammatory or keto or anything like that?
So through the boot campaign, they put us to what's called the Cooper Clinic, and they have a dietitian there, and she took my blood. She told me, okay, you're O positive. I'm going to throw you on a keto diet. I said, all right. And so I was on keto for about a year and a half. And not only that, I was trying to get back into professional bull riding, which I grew up breaking horses and riding bulls for my high school, and rode a little bit in the Marine Corps. And so I was training as well. So I was like, okay, this can double and help me out. And after about a year and a half, it just kind of, I started to notice a lot of fatigue, losing energy and everything like that. And then switched over to a Mediterranean and everything like that, and added a little bit more carbs. So, definitely, you can't just take one thing and expect everything else to fall in play. It's a recipe, so to speak. So the diet, CBD, sticking to a regimen, it's we're creatures of habit. That's why we survived for so long, I guess. So
yeah, mate. What you said had this, the day you got into the Marines, you had this real sense of purpose and joy in your life, and then the day it ended was when things started to feel odd. What was the integration like, and what drove you to go, hey, I'm going to go back to bull riding despite the injuries and things that you had?
Man, so getting out, the best way I like to describe it is, they say, like, for an entrepreneur is like jumping off a cliff with airplane parts and building it on the way down. Well, when you get out of the military, it's basically like that whole cliff is the military, and it just drops you off, and you're left looking up, and everybody's looking over like, see you, dude, and the transitional part was really tough. I went through a lot of times where I felt like I was betrayed, and because on my DD2, sorry, it's my dog. So on my DD214, which is the paper you get when you get out, it says honorable discharge, which is great. And then it was like right next to it, reduction of force. So that had a huge influence on kind of how I took it. And, we, in the community that I came from in the military, we didn't really talk too much about it. We were taught to blend in. We were taught to not show pain, suffer in silence, suffer patiently suffer. And that's one thing in the sniper community within the Marine Corps that we pride ourselves on, that we can do more with less, with all this crap going on in our head, and not show pain. By all means, that's great while you're in it.
Mm.
Post-military, I don't recommend it. On top of, the friends I lost or countless, multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, everything that happened over there, you pile it all on top. And like I said earlier, there's recipe for good. Well, there's also, like I said, recipe for disaster. So it's just kind of like at that point where you're like, crap, man, this sucks. And the next day it's like, man, this sucks even more. And you realize it's a week later and you haven't slept and you're losing weight. So you go to the VA. They put you on a bunch of meds. Okay. 8 different kinds of meds. Antidepressants stacked with Adderall and Vyvanse, stacked with Tramadol and Flexerol and all this other stuff. And some people gain weight because of meds, and I just kept losing it. And it was not doing me any good. It was not doing. And so I kicked the meds and went through a couple cannabis studies. CBD with being a big cannabinoid or the on that side of the holistic side. And because I figured, we made it. We made this place. We made this earth before all these pharmaceuticals have been here. There's got to be something natural and holistic that's gonna work. And on top of that, it was me just feeling like I want to give up. And then the next day I was like, the discipline kicked in, which discipline will beat motivation any day. And I was like, get up, get your ass out of bed. You're not fucking going out like this. I don't know if I can cuss on this podcast. I'm sorry. And literally I can't count the days, man, where I would scream at myself to get out of bed in the morning. I don't think my neighbors liked it very much, but you do what you got to do. And just like in combat, you can't forget the guy to your left and right. They're always going to be there to help you out. Like the Recon Sniper Foundation, which, started with some buddies in the Marine Corps to, bring us all together as a small community because we're considered the bastard children of the Marine Corps. Everybody forgets about us. So at the same time, them, Cervantes, just everybody, Rogue American, all these guys started to band together because when we weren't especially receptive to the fact of people who hadn't been through what we had been through telling us what we should be doing, for stuff that we went through that they had never been through. And I know that's the big thing. And yeah, they're just trying to help. It's like, hey man, you can sit there and yell at me, I'm just trying to help all you want. But is that really helping if you're trying to defend yourself that you're just trying to help? No. We need real help, and you need to have the maturity to say, hey, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know if this is going to work, but let's find out. It's like, that's what really got me, was like all these people were telling me, this is what you need to do. Okay, where's your credibility on that? Where did you learn that? Have you been through combat? Have you been through 6 tours of combat? Have you been through 10? Have you even been through 1? Have you seen your 2 guys that you're solely in charge for go down day 1, day 2 of a 6-day operation? Have you seen your best friend lose his leg? No. So who are you to be telling me this? And so all these guys as a community, Recon Sniper Foundation, Boot Campaign, Cervantes, Rudy Reyes, all these guys started coming together and just like, hey, especially Cervantes. Cervantes not being a military, a primary military company. They are a bunch of grade A athletes who have such a mind for legendary things that they were like, dude, the military is one of the most legendary things in all history. it has helped shape this world, whether it be good or bad. But these guys come home, and we're not going to do it wrong. We're going to help them out. And so that's how Cervantes gets pulled in. Like they pulled themselves in because they wanted to help. That's just who Bert is. That's who the Soren family is. That's what Pops wanted to do. He saw something back in the 80s and didn't like it, and was just like, you know what? I'm not going to wait till someone tells me what I can and can't do. I'm just going to do something. And so Bert, being who he is, Pop's son, Richard Soren's son, was like, hey, these guys in the military are great. I'm not going to wait for anybody to say something. I'm going to go out there, meet these guys, and invite them in because they're fucking legendary. And the epidemic of the veteran suicide was really pissing Bert off. It pisses all of us off, you know. And as much as we don't like to talk about it, it's come to fruition a lot the past about 4 years. So it's we banded together, and there's still a lot of guys out there. They're like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. I'm like, all right. And even if that's, you know, if I sit there and say, call him one day, hey, you good? Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I don't need anything. Okay. Talk to you later. Even just that, I remember getting calls like that from Bert, you know, 2:30 in the morning. Even just that, he knew that he didn't have to talk to me very long because he would go through me rejecting him every day as long as he was able to hear my voice and know that I was alive. That, you know, you can't teach that. It's something that all of us have down inside. We just have to let it go and let it come up to the top, you know? And so we all started working together, and one thing led to another. And you know, so our next thing is be legendary. And like I said, we all have it in us. We just have to be able to find that right recipe in order to bring it out and let it taste good, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely. So, what do you think it says that one, you're awake at 2:30 a.m. and two, despite the fact that you didn't necessarily want to talk to Brett at 2:30 a.m., you still picked up the phone and said g'day and yeah, I'm good, and that was that. What do you think that was saying about the headspace you're in?
It was almost knee-jerk reaction when I would answer.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to talk to people, but yet you want people to remember you're still there.
Yeah.
You know, in 2012, after my 4th deployment, I put a gun in my mouth.
Gee.
Yeah, I've been at the bottom and pulled that trigger and it didn't go off. Sure. You know, yeah. So I've never sweat, cried, laughed at myself so much in one time than I did for the next 6 hours after that. I took all the mirrors in my house down. I couldn't even look at myself during that time in my life. And I remember feeling since then, from then until I got out of the Marine Corps, I suppressed it. Mm-hmm. I just went on deployment mode, stuck it in the back of my head and just locked it up and forgot about the key. Getting out, somehow that key kind of, I don't know if it was the key that opened that box in the back of my head back up, or if it was just all the wear and tear of the emotional, mental, and spiritual and physical feelings jarring the box loose. Well, they got out. And you sit there and you're like, I don't want to fucking talk to anybody. Just leave me the fuck alone. I just want to be on the ranch in Texas working horses, or in Montana working horses. And then I remember at the end of the night, I would drink, you know, a glass of whiskey or something like that. And because during that time in 2012, I was putting away 3 bottles of Glenlivet 18 a week. and the thing that stopped me from that was the price went up, and I was out of money. I was out of the Marine Corps. I was out of money, and I just kind of looked at myself at that point. I was like, man, this is pathetic. And I decided to quit drinking, and that's when I went to a more holistic way of suppressing the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where I could, even just drinking my coffee in the morning, I would just start just bawling. I would just bawl, or the next day I would just sit there and grip my coffee cup so hard that the handle would break and the ceramic would cut my hand. Or I would just sit there and bang on the table, just all these different emotions trying to get out at once. And I would see my phone ring, and I had to end up changing my ringtone almost every week because of the anxiety that it would push on me, because I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Oh crap, do you think they know what's going on with me? I really hope they don't know what's going on. I'd be really embarrassed. And this is back when I thought people, when I cared about what people thought. You know, it's, in retrospect, they care about you. That's why they're calling, you know, and at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I'm so fucking lonely. I'm so lonely. I just wish I had someone here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that internal battle. So that I'm so thankful for that knee-jerk reaction of just, you know, grabbing the phone and just like, what's up? He's like, hey buddy, what are you doing? Just sitting here watching a chick flick, you know, or because, yeah, I mean, one thing that even to this day, you can see my TV back in the background. There's 3 shows that I can watch that'll calm me. And that's The Office, The American Office, How I Met Your Mother, and The Big Bang Theory. Yeah. So just even, I mean, I could play The Office tune all day and it would keep me calm. Reason being is because we didn't have TVs over there. We would pass around a terabyte hard drive of movies and other movies. And it was just, you know, just that mental aspect of it. When we would come back from a mission or before we go or something like that, we weren't always listening to heavy metal and headbanging and all that stuff. It's like, man, I remember listening to instrumental music by Balmoria or something like that, and I can listen to them and be totally fine, or some, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Metallica, but I could even just throw on The Office, not watch it, and just that just that beginning sound is just like, hey man, nothing's gonna hurt you right now because you're in a place where you're watching The Office, and this is where in your mind you would go in between missions to escape and kind of decompress for that little time that you had in between that. You know, I wake up in the morning, I don't even watch it, I just throw it on and hear Michael Scott or some random thing going on, and it just, I mean, I'm no brain doctor, I'm no any of that, but at the same time, I can understand how the labyrinth that is the mind and the psyche, that is just, it amazes me that something so simple can put me at ease, but yet something so simple as a ringtone can set me off to where I just go and throw all the furniture in my house.
Like you said, there's no way that I can understand what that's like, and thanks so much for sharing that. You know, obviously the VA has a lot to deal with, but in the circumstance of you going there for help and all you end up with is eight medications which take you on a different path, and you know, we don't.
Hang on, you broke up.
Oh, what's going on? Am I back?
Yeah, last thing I heard was VA.
Right. So what I said was, no doubt the VA do a lot of good, and they've got a lot to deal with. But what does it sort of feel like when you go there for help and all you end up with is 8 medications, and you know, you you don't need to have your head in the sand to you mentioned a few O's there and things to help you sleep or knock you out, and they can lead to a whole bunch of other problems. What does that sort of make you feel that you go there for help or you end
I
up?
still can't understand what you're saying, man.
Oh, bugger. Are we back? Is that working now? No. What's going on? Is that now? Are you good now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. So I'll try re-say that. Is that working okay?
Yeah, so far so good.
Right. So what I was saying is the VA, you go there for help, and they've got a lot on their plate with many people needing help, and then you end up with a whole bunch of medications, which it's very, very common knowledge that they cause a lot of problems and different problems. How does that sort of make you feel initially that you go there for help and all you get is a prescriptive response instead of an individual response? And then do you think it's something to do with your heritage that you wanted something more natural and more back to the land to help you, and that was the next path you took?
So the VA, you absolutely feel like a number. It's, you expect that in the military. You don't expect that with your healthcare. Especially after going through 2 campaigns, and everything like that of combat. You would literally walk into the doctor's office and they don't even look at you. It's okay. You got this, and I'm like, is that a question? Yes, it's a question. Yes. Okay, this, blah, blah, blah. What else? Okay. And literally, there's no personal connection there. There's nothing. They're just staring at their clipboard. And it's not every doctor, but I mean, it's majority of them that are there for countless numbers a day because they see the same thing over and over and over. But the other side of it is that these doctors are probably like that because they deal with a lot of people who are trying to rig the system or get all they can or whatnot, or they're dealing with a lot of people who day in, day out are actually messed up. And so they get...
No, I've lost you.
They never even look at you. And that in and of itself has a severe mental effect on a lot of guys. And because they just want to have that connection, that camaraderie with someone that they know will have their back. The other half of that is a lot of these guys talk about the VA like it's bad. And I'm not saying all the VA is bad. There's a lot of good to it. But in order to see that good and not just be one of these guys that jumps on, one of these veterans that jumps on the bandwagon of, oh, fuck the VA and all that stuff, you have to actually go to the appointments that they schedule for you. You have to go through the numbers. You have to do the paperwork. You have to be here at that time. You have to go to this outpatient clinic over here. They're gonna reimburse you for your travel. They're gonna do that. Now, when you get that pay, I don't know, because I'm still waiting on my pay from the VA that they promised me, 6 months ago. So it's like there's a lot of different aspects there, but yeah, the VA overall right now is a very negative black eye because of the way that they're handling. I don't think that they were ready for this. The amount of this PTS, and I don't like to call it PTSD because, when you tell somebody enough times that they have a disorder, they're going to start believing it, and then they're going to start crutching on it. And especially with the military, like myself, I went in 17, 18 years old. That was how I knew how to become an adult. That was what I grew up doing in my adult, first 10 years of my adult life. So when we get out of the military and we have all these people telling us these things, in a sense, we are newborns to the civilian world. And you tell them something enough times, you know, nothing's more engaged in the mind of a 6-year-old. Well, technically, we're kind of like 6-year-olds. You know, we're like, oh, what's this? It's like the movie Shawshank Redemption when when the old guy gets out, he's like, everything moves so fast out here, boys. I almost just want to commit a crime and go back in, you know. And I was like, man, you know, he may be 80 years old, fresh out of jail of doing 70 years or doing 40 years, but man, I can kind of relate to that. But like I said, man, it's not a fun process, but it is a process that you need to go through if you want to do everything you can for yourself. Don't be lazy about it. Then you're just going to be a bandwagoner. So going through that, I got down to 155 pounds on when I was on 8 different prescriptions. At that point, I was like, okay, you know what? I packed my crap up. I still had lodging in Texas, and I lived in my truck for almost a year and a half, you know, and it was me and my Aussie cattle dog. They call him his breed. He's Aussie cattle dog and Aussie shepherd. So they call him in Texas, Texas healer, because the woman who did the first one in the States was in Weatherford, Texas. So it was like, I call him my healer, but I also spell it Healer. Animals have such a way to recognize energy within each other. It's like, if you ever want to get a good judge of character on a person, watch what your dog does around him. You know, if he growls and doesn't want to get near him, that's probably a good judge of character. I'm going to trust my dog on that one. So having that connection, or just even that pathway open, and not being like, oh, that's dumb, oh, that, man, you're a tree hugger, hippie. No, it's not any of that. It's just a deep spiritual connection from the land that created us. I mean, it's being Native American, Lipan Apache. We are one with the land. We were some of the best scouts back in the day for this area. It's to be a scout is something that is sacred. And so having that kind of mindset was like, you know what? If they could go through what they did and still be as great as they are, and still pass their bloodlines, still have that way to pass their bloodlines and survive all the way to me, you know, I can get through this. I can at least try something. And that was part of the thinking on it. And I mean, it sounds, some people probably out there like, oh, that's dumb. It's like, okay, well, I'm still sitting here, so that's a win. So, you know, I went to that more natural and holistic lifestyle of trusting energy and meditation and getting out to, you know, the mountains, the Rocky Mountains here in the States, you know, up there in Montana, all the way down, you know, Colorado, and then down in New Mexico. Whether it's the mountains or the deserts, those are really the only 2 places where I felt such a deep connection with the land that it's almost like some type of harmonic wave coming up as you're just kind of there. You know, the Athabascan culture, which Apache derived from, it's all in that area. And I first noticed that with myself. I was part of the sniper instructor cadre out in 29 Palms, and everybody hated that place because it was out there near Joshua Tree, California. There's nothing out there except lava rock mountains, but it's a desert. I absolutely loved it. It was just such a connection. I just felt like I could breathe. I just felt like I could think and do anything. And I didn't really think about it back then as deep as I do now. because I still had the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
I still had that family. And now being out, when I took off in my truck after I just totally cold turkey pharmaceuticals, which was not easy. So anytime you hear someone say just cold turkey, just be ready to be ready for a dogfight with yourself.
Mm.
I went straight up to Montana in my truck, just me and the dog and a bunch of training gear. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use my skills, what I can, to teach, and I'll make money along the way. And, I remember looking over, and my dog's name's Woodrow West. West for my favorite direction, Woodrow for, one of my favorite characters in Lonesome Dove. So if that's not Texas, I don't know what is. So I remember looking over at him a lot, or just, we pull up on a trailhead and go camp out that night under the stars. And I would just hold him close and look at him and just tell him everything's going to be all right. And all he would do is just kind of cock his head, give me a few licks, and put his paw and just want to play. And some people may look at that and be like, he doesn't know what you're doing. It's like, no, he does.
Mm.
He knows exactly what he's doing for me. I can literally count 3 significant times, 2 before I took off in my truck with him, which I was living up in Frisco, Texas, up north of Dallas. And I could just feel like everything just going black, and this rage and sadness at the same time just coming over me. I remember sitting on the floor. We for some reason I have no problem sleeping on a hard floor or flat floor or any of that because of the military. So I'll have a perfectly good couch, but I'll be sitting on the floor in front of it with my back up against it, and I could just feel this, like a cloud, like this dark energy coming over me. And the first time he pawed and licked my neck, like just one real quick, and it kind of caught me out of it, and he kept nudging my arm, and he didn't have a ball, he didn't have a stick, he didn't have, I didn't say the word cows, so it's like I can't even spell that around him, and he'll get excited. And he knew what was going on. The second time, he literally bit me. I was sitting there shaking with my hands, just gripping nothing. I just gripping in a fist, shaking, just almost starting to hyperventilate. And I assume that he had tried, almost like an escalation of force, tried to paw, lick, do whatever. Finally, bit me. And he didn't break skin, but it caught me, broke that dark energy that just kind of came over me. And I looked at him, and I just, that was something that didn't happen by mistake.
No.
And after that second time is when I decided to just cold turkey and take off and just try to find that connection that I had in those moments with him.
Mm.
My father would tell me, if you listen to the land, it'll tell you all you need to know. I mean, we all come from the land. We all, there's a saying, it's be as proud as the land that made you. I mean, we work the land, we walk the land, we run, we swim, we do all these things here. So to have that energy always pumping in us is something that I truly believe in.
You're saying about dogs there, and one other really powerful and I guess judge of character animal is the horses that you've also got a deep connection to. My dad's been on a coaching course with New Zealand Sport this week, and one of the things I've been doing is dealing with horses. And his father, my grandfather, always had race horses, and I read your post this morning about, be careful, don't walk behind them, watch their ears. And you're right, I've got this irrational fear of the horses, despite nothing ever happening to me, and always having a great connection with them. And now I have this strange desire to learn to ride them and play polo. But what did they start to tell you about your energy and where you're at, and how to create more of a connection with yourself when you got back to the horses?
Man, so each animal I feel, that we have connections with has its own wavelength, to speak on, just like they all speak the same language, but in different dialects. It's something, and that's not a literal statement. That's something that's just kind of like an analogy, I guess. Dealing with dogs, or even just West, was such a enormous level for me to get to, that I remember, I was like, man, I've worked ranches growing up. I've learned to break horses growing up. I've learned to take care of horses, show a horse and whatnot. I wonder, because in Native American culture, there's not many words for horse. Like in Sioux culture, they just call them a big dog. That's literally all that they are. The thing about it is that their eye, I feel like people feel such a more deeper connection with the horse, is because that eye is standing, and they have such valiant size and so much, power to them that we almost feel inferior to them. But really, we're just equals. And you can look in a horse's eye. And I remember just one day, me and a buddy bought a project horse at this ranch I was working on in Central Texas for a couple of years. It was actually, a buddy sniper of mine that we went into snipers together in January 2011, I believe. He stepped on an IED and lost his right leg above the knee. The fucker flatlined on the bird, and I thought he was done, but he made it back somehow, because the last word I got before we started a big operation was that he didn't make it.
Oh, man.
And that was my best friend. He's my daughter's godfather. Like, my daughter was born in 2009, and then 2011 rolls around, and TJ just like, yeah. So we bought a project horse because we never thought that we'd be working a ranch together in Central Texas. So this horse's name was Eli, and he always had a problem with females, and he would always nip at the hair and whatnot, and not like them, and nip at their chest. And I think it was just, the hormonal output or whatnot, because we release all this energy, these hormones, these smells that we can't smell, animals pick up on. And I guess he just didn't like it. Well, I brought my daughter out. She was 8 years old at the time, and she had long hair, and she literally, we go to the round pen. I put Eli in the round pen, and we go, and I was like, and I warned her, she knows from just watching me around horses to, not walk behind, or if you do, always keep a hand on them, stuff like that. And I mean, she would walk underneath horses that I would work with. And, but Eli, I wasn't too sure about him yet, until she goes, Dad, you just gotta, it's like you told me, you just gotta look them in the eye, and you gotta feel them. And I was like, all right, let's see what you got. And I think it all came to a big circle for me when she just walked right up to him, and he put his head down. They introduced each other. She put her head right above his nose, and just kind of went like this, and just touched forehead to nose for a little bit. And I remember walking up next to her, just looking at his eye, and you could see it. You could see this this want, this want to bond, this energy flowing between all of us at that moment, and you could see that he could feel, you know, what each of us were feeling at that moment. And it's I to this day, I wish I could put it in simple words, because, you know, Einstein said if you can't explain something simply, you don't know it well enough.
Don't know.
I mean, it's something that I will forever chase, is that energy, to have that flow state. That's really the only thing that I can explain that was that we were in a flow state in that moment, and the rest of the evening we were fine. I'd put her on, you know, I'd get on him bareback and just kind of like, you know, put him into a little gait and whatnot, and he was fine. I mean, but when he would get a bunch of people around him that had this, you know, this energy of very controlling, or got to do everything now, and daily grind and all this stuff, he would go, he wouldn't be himself. And I'm like, man, the energy connection with horses, this connection that we have with animals, because we are in ourselves animals as well. It's just, you know, we've evolved a lot faster than all the others. And so to think that we don't have that connection is in my opinion, ignorant. I mean, I'm not saying ignorance is a bad thing. It just means you don't know it yet. You haven't given it a chance. So.
And you brought up a flow state there, and how you've now got in touch with meditation. Obviously, sitting behind a rifle, and you put up a post the other day about shooting a 308 out to 1,200 yards, and for a popular hunting rifle in New Zealand, you know, people shy away from a 300 yard or meter shot. 1,200 yards. What is it? What, for starters, to put it into perspective, how far does a bullet drop at 1,200 yards? And also, what's the headspace?
You know, like you said, that flow state of that shooting mentality, it takes discipline and repetition just to get there. It's a meditation all its own. It's, you know, to be a precision shooter or a sniper, it's an art form. You know, like when I teach stalking or camouflage, you know, stalking is the movement within the vegetation from point A to point B, or within your natural surroundings. I tell people to paint themselves into the landscape. So you're not just going to sit there and boom, smother it all on. No, you're going to Bob Ross that with some happy stalking and happy ghillie suits and stuff like that, right? So you have to look at it in almost a methodical, deliberate methodical movements in mind and train of thought. Because when you're shooting out past, you know, I mean, you're looking at 32, roughly about 26 mils going up. Yeah, you got quite a drop. I mean, it's so to be able to hit something out in that distance accurately, the rifle needs to be an extension of your body. I mean, it's an extra arm, you know, it's an extra. I always like to, you know, we center that rifle right between us. But when I first learned that, I was like, okay, yeah, it's just because proper bone support, cool. Recoil management, cool. But now, if you think about it, what do we do in meditation? We try to come back to center. We try to center ourselves. We concentrate on that air and the breathing and it going down the throat, into the lungs, filling them up. And what is that? That's our center. So to have that rifle in our center, I believe, I like to feel it as like an extension of my heart almost. Just another ventricle of where I'm pushing my energy into there. all the way down to the way I grip the rifle, how I don't give a full beer can grip or anything like that. I'm literally barely resting my hand. I've always got my thumb just behind that safety on the right side of the Remington 700 blueprint, you know, finger at 90 degrees to where the only thing that's moving is that finger, and it's just boom. And it's an injection of all your energy into the beginning of the ballistics. Once those ballistics take over, that internal ballistics, from the moment that that primer is triggered to the moment it leaves the tip of the barrel, to the intermediate ballistics being that first meter outside that rifle, to the external, all the way till the time it hits the target at terminal ballistics. I remember always, whether I was downrange in a firefight or just training back stateside in Quantico or whatnot, my thought process was literally from the time I thought about getting behind the rifle. That's when it started for me. That was my mental pre-shot checklist. And I wish so much more early on after I got out of the military that I had just remembered that and transferred it, but to be able to transfer that, you have to have certain elements to fulfill in those spots where there is no longer a rifle. So I think that was the big thing, just like for athletes when they leave, like my buddy John Wellborn with Power Athlete down in Austin, he talks a lot about it. He played for the Chiefs for all those years. He got out, he had to fill that void. He had to do something. So to be able to find what you're going to fill that with in order to find your center again is a journey all its own. And it's one I don't recommend to take alone. Just like in the sniper teams, you got a shooter, you got a spotter, always beside you. I mean, that's in the recon, in the Marine recon Raiders scout sniper area. It started, in the dive area of the teams. It was, never above you, never below you, always beside you. It was a dive term. And with the Marines being an amphibious force, it just spread throughout, the teams, and then it went over to recon. Now, recon and snipers are using it. And really all we're saying is always beside you, ABY. So if you see like a hashtag, ABY, it means, hey, always beside you, man. And, and that translates to a lot of different things in life. And that really helps with the meditation, because to feel like you're all alone at times, you're going to lose that focus. You're going to lose that concentration, that center of energy that will allow you to do anything. But until you find that, fill those voids that you had for so long, that, like I said, that's a journey in all of itself. But I think one of the biggest things was I went through some brain treatment where they're trying meditation. The clinic that I was at is no longer around. And he was running me through these things, and he said, most people who, I had been doing it for maybe a week, and he said, most people take about 6 months to even just, actually get to the point where they feel and can concentrate on the lungs getting into it. He goes, can you explain what you're feeling right now? And I explained it to him, and he goes, oh shit. And I was like, well, I just kind of was like, well, they taught us diaphragmatic breathing, as snipers, because we have to sit there and either shoot at our natural respiratory pause in a steady rhythm, or have what's called a forced breath when we're, under stress, which a forced breath is just that boom. And that's the forced breath. So there's either that breathing from the diaphragm or the forced breath. And so I don't know if it was that, or if it was just the way my father raised me and the wisdom that he passed on and everything like that I already kind of had that energy within me. But I mean, meditation has been one of the best things. I'm an overthinker naturally. So I to be able to understand myself on how to meditate. God, you want to talk about overthinking? Like, yeah, I mean that was, yeah. So I'd have to say that the journey of filling those voids in order to learn how to be who you need to be or who you want to be post a career, don't do that journey alone, and just trust in your energy, trust your gut. That gut feeling is that energy. So
Nice. And yeah, I love that. Always beside you. I'll be, yeah, that's powerful, man. You spoke about Rogue America. And what is that about, man?
so Rogue American Apparel,
Yeah.
there, yeah. So it was Wes Whitlock, who was a Marine as well. He's down there out of Austin. Boy, that guy, I mean, he is a number one. He's just all around badass. You know, that is how Wes is who I met Bert through at SHOT Show here. And one of the 3 years that I went through SHOT Show, I'm not really a Vegas fan. I like to. I don't like big cities. I don't like Vegas. I don't like that kind of stuff. Never really have. So, I'll take a ranch and a cookout any day. So, when I met Wes, it was I rode my Harley down. It was Labor Day. I want to say 2014 or something like that. I had a Harley custom. I built it throughout my deployments, ape hangers on it and everything like that. So I rode it down to Austin, about a 4-hour drive from here. And he was putting on a course with a Marine Raider buddy of mine. And I was kind of driving it off road and it hit a few bumps. And it kind of just shorted a wire and my bike broke down. So we got a trailer and I spent the night at his house, but we ended up staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning, just sipping whiskey and smoking cigars, just talking about life, man. That again, that deep spiritual energy that you don't have to force to come out. That's when you know that person was meant to be in your life. Just like with Bert, just like with Derek Woodsky, all these people from Cervantes, it's an amazing feeling when you get that. And Wes was one of the first people after I got out of the military that I ever felt that with. And he was like, brother, we're going to be okay. And to this day, I'll support him. I'll support whatever he does. He's one of a kind. He truly is. He's just one of those. Him and Bert are a lot alike in many ways. So.
And how powerful is that? Just simple words like, "Hey brother, we're going to be okay." That. I think probably what added power to that is, like you said, the energy and the connection was there, and to know that somebody not only says something that talks to you, but comes from a place that resonates with you. Yeah. What do you reckon? Am I lost again? No.
I heard somewhat of what you said. I guess if I understood you correctly, to have that coming from someone like Wes and where he came from, and being the Marine and now a successful businessman and everything like that. It was a relief to say that, but at the same time, I still had yet to step off on my post-military career journey. I had just gotten out. Yeah. When him and I think I was technically still in the Marine Corps. And so I was like, hey, right on, cool. Yeah, let's do this. Boy, I didn't know what I had in store for me that in my life's path, you know, all of our paths are already set. You know, it's just we need to fulfill them. You know, every decision we make, good or bad, lazy or productive, is already set. It's just some find them earlier than others. So um, if I could go back and see what I was about to go through for the next 4 or 5 years, man, I probably would have shit my pants. I'm not gonna lie. It's there's been times, like I said earlier, where I would not sleep for weeks. There's been times when I would sleep for weeks. It's I don't know. Working at that ranch, I absolutely loved it because it was very independent. It was like, you know, the sniper team where, you know, everybody's knows their work, knows what to do, and doesn't have to have someone standing over their back saying, hey, do this, do that, do this, do this. All right, now move here. No, we were very independent workers. That's just independent operators. That's just how it is. You have to be. It's a higher learning curve over there. So being on that ranch, it was nice. And this connects to me saying that our paths are already set, and if you look back on your life and see how connected everything is, that's that spirit within all things, you know, that's guiding you, that energy, that flow state that's always there, but you just got to be able to recognize it. When I got back into riding bulls, it was just kind of, for me, it was how, like, my dad would always go play. I mean, my dad played professional softball up until he was like 70 years old, you know, actually 73, he's 74 now. He would go and play, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then tournaments on the weekends. And then, you know, when he was hurt, he would just play Thursday nights. and so I looked at it like, okay, well, I'm going through the VA, or, you know, I've been blown up. I got spurs in my neck. I got lung capacity taken out from blunt force trauma. I got all this stuff. I'm just going to go, you know, find something that kind of gives me somewhat of a drive. And I looked up the nearest rodeo company in Texas. And it was at the time I was out of Gatesville, Texas, just west of Waco. And he was down in Belton, Texas, and it's called Bad Dog Rodeo Company, because he had an Aussie cattle dog that it was his first dog while he was in the Marine Corps, and it got run over, and it was his favorite dog of all time. So he named his rodeo, and all he wanted to do was just raise buck and stock, you know. And I go down there because one of my buddies who's bullfights for us in the PBR. Well, he fights on the premier level. His name's Shorty Gorham. He was like, hey, man, you know, and he's a huge veteran supporter. Like, I mean, runs cat hunts down in Catula, Texas with dogs and everything like that. Amazing dude. And helps his family. And he fights bulls and protects cowboys on the weekend. You know, almost every weekend of the year. So he was like, hey, man, why don't you come on down? I'm putting on a bullfighting school, which a bullfighter in the arena in the States is what most people would think is, or call a rodeo clown. Do not call them rodeo clowns. They're angels. Man, they've saved my bacon. They fight those bulls like nobody else's business. And I owe a lot to those guys. So he was putting on a bullfighting school, and this guy named Kevin Hoyt ran Bad Dog Rodeo Company. And it was on his 7 acres. He had his bulls, he had his bullpen, he had his alley, he had his practice shoot, and it was all covered. And I was like, man, this is a really nice arena and setup for being on 7 acres. And Shorty's like, yeah, wait till you meet him. He was a Marine as well. And I looked over at Shorty, and I was like, and Shorty's real name is Seth, but everyone calls him Shorty. I was like, he was? And he goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was from your community. And I was like, Kevin Hoyt? Huh. how old is he? And you know, he's probably in his late 40s, early 50s, and just cowboy as fuck, you know. And I mean, I look him up. We have private pages on the internet. You got to be vetted by like 6 different people just to get in them. That you are either sniper, recon, special amphibious reconnaissance corpsman, which is our medics, or a raider. And so I put his name out there. Hey, anyone ever heard of Kevin Hoyt? And guys were like, what? Where's he been? That dude's a legend. He's killed more people than cancer and all this stuff. And they were like, tell Bird Dog what's up. And so I look at him and I meet Kevin. And, you know, we do that. And Shorty sat in the back because we all go to get beer for after the school. And me and Kevin just start shooting the shit at people that we know and the places that we're both at and everything like that, and schools we both went to but different times. And at the end of the day, I remember sitting on my couch at the ranch and just being like, there's no way this happened by chance.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way. You know, in all of Texas is pretty big as itself for the lower 48, but holy crap, something is at work here. Something bigger than what any of us can see. I know a lot of people have to see to believe, but something's telling me to just feel, just go with my gut. Be part of that energy that's just flowing through this right now. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start riding here. And he helped me get back into riding shape. He told me what I needed to do. And he pretty much became my coach. And I would go there Sundays and Wednesdays and practice riding bulls. And finally, some guys would come up from the PBR circuit or pro circuit, be like, hey, man, you ride? I was like, yeah. They were like, what circuit you in? I was like, oh, I just come out here, you know, like old guys go play softball on Thursday nights. They're like, man, you should really think about it. And I was like, the first couple times I shoot it off. And then I was like, you know what? Rodeo traveling's not cheap. And they're not going to ask somebody who they don't think is going to be able to carry their weight. Screw it. I put in an application to the PBR and, you know, but after I had been riding some pro open rodeos, and I was just like, oh, cool. All right, I'll do this. We're doing this. All right. And it just started gaining steam. And Bert was more than, he was like, dude, he like grabbed me by the shoulders. He's like, let's get you in shape. Let's get you in there and everything like that. I'm like, dude, awesome. And everybody, you know, I remember the first year I went to Summer Strong. It was Summer Strong 10. And I'm the only one there in like cowboy boots, you know, besides Pops, which Richard Sorn, he's got like this outfit of boots, and they're like white snakeskin boots or something like that. I don't know. It's pretty awesome. But so other than him, I'm the only other guy in boots, but like my jeans are starched. I'm wearing a pearl snap and everything like that. And people are just kind of like looking at me. You know, you have these big dudes. You have these like real in shape, tight, like knit athletes, runners, sprinters, throwers, professional football players, all these stuff that like kind of looking at me. And I'm just, you know, I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm this. I was a scout sniper. No, it's like, I'm just going to kind of blend in. I'm here to learn. I'm forever a student. I always remind myself that. And so I'm sitting there just trying to learn. Everybody's like, oh, okay, well, what do you do? And they were like, and I'm like, oh, well, I ride bulls. And they're like, what? That's awesome. The sport of rodeo is coming up so quickly and everything, but it's been around almost the longest in the States. And just, that's the kind of atmosphere that is the energy that is put out at Cervantes. It's not like, oh, whatever. Well, my bench is this. No, fuck that. All those egos are checked way away, probably checked at the state line. You know, everybody is just so receptive. It's about a community. That's why everybody looks at it as a recharge. And so for that recharge, every year people were like, man, this isn't enough. And then came Winter Strong, and we just had that huge recharge from Winter Strong. And Winter Strong was a little bit different from Summer Strong, being that it was more outdoors and hunting oriented. So, he had, Adam from Journal Mountain Hunting and the Rivets, who I absolutely love. They're out of Canada, Johnny and Jen Rivet. Oh, they're West godparents, I swear. They that whole weekend, it was all wild game. And just all the people, Bert and everybody are just coming together. There is never an idea that's like, no, sit down, that was dumb. Sit down. It's like, okay, I see what you're trying to get at. Let's work on that. Let's do it. Let's build it up. And it's it just, I totally forgot what your question was, but I just kind of got on this spiel because it makes me smile, and it reminds me of being, well, okay, now I caught my thought again. It just
everything's all right.
that it was meant to be in my path, and this is my path. And how you're on the right path is that you're happy. You can feel like there's you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because for so many years, so many nights, it was just so dark. And I would never wish those nights on my worst enemy. At least there's a respect there because you're both fighting a war against each other, but you don't understand them.
Yeah.
People, it's tough, man. So I really respect everyone that's come into my life and everything that has been in my path, just waiting for me to explore. I'm so grateful for all those people in my life, and then grateful for you and everybody that wants to hear what I have to say, because for so long, veterans think that, no one really wants to hear what I have to say. Well, why am I so special? I'm just like the other guy. We each have a story, so it just, who knows? It could save someone's life. It could turn someone into the next person that cures cancer. Who knows?
Mate, you're exactly right. And who's to know how powerful those words were that, things are going to be all right. And I guess it kind of sums up what this podcast is about. It probably speaks to guys our age, and, you get a lot of different thoughts going on. There's a lot of different societal pressures. And when you see someone that's living a life less ordinary, and in your case, you get to see behind the scenes of people, and they tell you that, whatever journey you're on right now is the right one. And it's exactly that you speak about, having a little bit of empathy for where someone's at and the different things that might happen from their life, and doesn't matter where they've been, keep pushing forward in that flow. It's powerful, mate. So what can we expect from Brady coming up, and where do people get the opportunity to follow you? I'm super stoked that now I've connected and found you, man. It's working.
You're getting on the Witzkeism thing, though. That's key. We're trying to, on the Witzkeism thing on Instagram. My Instagram is Totanka, but the O, it's Totanka, but the O is a 0. That's on Instagram. I got off of Facebook just because of I still contract and all that stuff. Whenever I need cash and whatnot. And plus, I feel like Facebook's a little played out now. But I have Twitter, same name on Twitter as Instagram. But the thing about social media these days is it's such a fun game. If you look at it like it's supposed to be taken seriously, there are serious posts and tweets or whatnot, but don't let it control your life. Get outside, go grab your friend that you haven't talked to in a while, or go find some veterans, or go find some former athletes and whatnot, and take them outside. Go have some fun and record it or whatnot. The whole, if you don't take a picture, it never happened. I don't know, but record it, throw it on Instagram, tag us, tag me. I don't care. Just do great with your life. Go be legendary, and if anybody can make it a Summer Strong 12, which is May 12th or May 18th, they're at Sornex headquarters in Lexington, South Carolina. Come on out. You'll absolutely love it. You'll love the atmosphere. You'll learn quite a bit. We have speakers go on from retired athletes who talk about, how to deal with concussions or how to deal with the injury, which turn them into a coach. Coaches that teach you how to lift better. Coaches that teach you how to think better. Military veterans that tell you their story that you can't take pictures or record of, and because of what they speak of and everything like that. Motivational speakers. I mean, just anyone and everyone comes there and just shares this love and energy like I try to do on the internet. And so it's because at the end of the day, if I can help one person in this world with what I have, then my life will be a success. Bottom line. That's what we're here to do. We come from a civilization of tribes, and that used to hunt saber-toothed tigers together with sticks, running 40 miles a day and not even bat an eye at it. Yeah. We are always beside you, and if you follow my story, I'm not always sure what's going to come next, but I do know this, and that's that we're all going to be okay.
Mate, yeah, I think that's exactly right. Now, my social media is a little bit split personality. I've got one page that follows hunting, and I sort of put out my family life, and then this other page that follows high performance, and I chuck the podcast up on. But I think that exactly what you said there. It's a bit of a fun game, and you can have a social media that makes you jealous and gives you FOMO, or you can have a social media that you tailor that brings a lot of fun and laughter and motivation, inspiration, discipline, things that move you forward. And like this podcast proved to you that there is another way out there. There is people that are going through hard shit and getting through the other side. And that's why it's been freaking awesome to have you on. And I'll have links to that in the show notes. So be sure to, if you want an easy way to track you down, click on that. You've just left us with a couple of things. Is there anything else, man? Any way that you're thinking going forward, or a key thought that's changed your life that you'd like to share before we go? Because this has been fantastic, man.
There's so many different things that I could say. There's so many different things that I could tell you, but number one, nothing's over. The hard times aren't over. The easy times are yet to come. Happy times will always be there. You just got to find them. But there's always something that just kind of resonated with me. It's something that I thought of the other day. And it was like, this ain't a just getting started. This is a follow through. It's taking what you've been through for legendary status and what you're going to do. So, that's sounds like a song lyric, but it's something that I didn't really have to think about or write down and revise 4 or 5 times. I just boom, one and done. And I was like, whoa, that was pretty cool.
Nice. So you just tweaked last night. We watched a film on Netflix. It's got Zach Galifianakis in it. It's a bit of a black comedy, and it's called A Funny Story. And in that, he quotes Bob Dylan in it and to this kid. He doesn't realize that it's Bob Dylan, but he says, get busy living or be busy dying. And it goes along those same lines, mate. It's awesome. Bro, this has been absolutely awesome. And like, especially for my...
Truly appreciate it.
Especially for my audience, that's, mostly New Zealand and Australia, our biggest sort of military sort of stuff, especially in New Zealand. There's a bit more of it in Australia going into action, but we sort of come in peace keep. But and like I ran into our Victoria Cross the other day in the supermarket and said, "Kia ora, bro," and he's like, "Kia ora." It's
I need to come down there, man. It's New Zealand and Australia are definitely on my bucket list. So, but sooner rather than later. Kai's trying to get me down there to go do a little walkabout or whatnot, and so.
Yeah, she'll introduce you to another legend of this podcast, Adam Kavanagh, and
There you go.
I'm sure there's plenty of people around that can. I think Kai's friends with them, but they could link you up with Adam Greentree. Who's up there in terms of bow hunters from Australia, mate. That guy's a legend. So yeah,
man, I like to meet anyone new. I'll treat the CEO just the same as the janitor, and the janitor just the same as the CEO. So
legend. We'll leave it there. I'll press stop, and this has been awesome.
I appreciate it.